What's up, Tech King? Stefan here from TechRight. Today we're going to be comparing the Moto G Stylus 5G versus the new N200 5G from OnePlus. Stay tuned. Alright everyone, hopefully you guys are having a good day. Hopefully everyone is in good health. We have the OnePlus N200 5G on the right side, and we have the Moto G Stylus 5G on the left side. First and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and start off with the release date. So the G Stylus 5G was actually released June 14th, and the N200 5G was released June 25th, so about 15-16 days apart. So they're fairly new phones. The N200 5G, very new. And as far as the prices go, obviously both these devices are going to be available at Metro by T-Mobile. The Moto G Stylus 5G is going to be available, I believe, in different RAM and internal storage variants, so don't quote me on that. And the N200 5G is available at Metro by T-Mobile right now as well, with port-in deals, as well as opening a new line and getting that discount. But both these devices are also available on Amazon.com, and I'll leave the links in the description down below if you guys would like to check the current pricing. I'll also leave them in a top comment. But the prices on these devices for the G Stylus 5G, it is going to be $399, so $400 for the unlocked variant. And for the N200 5G, the unlocked variant is going to be $240. Now, as far as the build on both these devices, we're not going to have Gorilla Glass 5 or any Gorilla Glass on these devices. We're going to have a glass front on both these devices, plastic frames, and plastic backs on both these devices. Now, as far as which one feels more premium, I'd have to say that the OnePlus N200 5G feels a little bit more premium. This one kind of has more of a frosted back and a little bit of a harder back, to be quite honest, but both do not feel cheap, to be quite honest, in the hands. So both have pretty nice builds, but both are made out of plastic and both are made out of glass. So those are all of the materials that these phones are made out of. Now, the only other thing different with the build is that the Moto G Stylus 5G does actually have a stylus. So we're going to have a stylus in the Moto G Stylus 5G. And obviously we do not have a stylus on the N200 5G. So if you guys are looking for a phone with a stylus, the Moto G Stylus 5G is definitely going to be the phone for you. As far as the display, both these devices are going to be IPS LCD. Both are also going to be 1080p by 2400, and both are going to have a 20:9 aspect ratio. The only difference as far as the screen goes has to be the size, and the Moto G Stylus 5G is going to have a 6.8-inch screen with an 85% screen to body ratio, and the N200 5G is going to have about an 84% screen to body ratio, and that is going to have a 90 Hz display. We're going to get into that right now. As you guys see, let's go into the display options right here. Advanced, and as you guys see, we have a 90 Hz and a 60 Hz option. 60 Hz if you guys don't want to waste too much battery, but the N200 5G is going to look a bit better. As far as going through your day-to-day tasks, it is going to look better. Just because it does have that 90 Hz display, but the Moto G Stylus 5G does have a nice display nonetheless. Now, as far as the PPI on these devices, the N200 5G actually has a higher PPI at a 405 PPI compared to the Moto G Stylus 5G with a 387 PPI. So higher PPI on the N200 5G, which is really surprising, honestly, since the Moto G Stylus 5G is so much more in price. Getting into the operating systems, this is kind of funny, but both these devices are pretty stock Android, to be quite honest. As you guys know, Motorola keeps a stock Android feel with their little light skin over it, and so does OnePlus. So we get blessed with both of those stock Android looks on both these devices, but the operating systems on these are going to be Android 11, and the N200 5G is going to be Oxygen OS 11 with Android 11 as well, obviously. And as far as the chipsets, they're both going to have the same chipset. So we're going to have the 480 5G chipsets in both these devices, and both these devices are going to have 5G connectivity as well. So that's great to see. Getting into the GPU, both these devices will also have the Adreno 619. So we're getting a lot of similarities between these devices right now. So that's kind of cool to see. Definitely let me know in the comment section down below which one you feel is more stock Android. Honestly, I feel like both these devices are pretty much the same, but But you know, I feel like I like OnePlus a little bit more, to be quite honest, as far as their Oxygen OS. It's a little bit more refreshing as far as the color and the theme. But also both these devices will be expandable via micro SD card. And getting into the internal memory and the RAM. Now this is where the difference in the price is going to come. So getting into the storage on the Moto G Stylus 5G, we're going to have a 256 gigabyte internal storage and 6 gigabytes of RAM. For the N200 5G, we're only going to have 64 gigabytes of internal storage and 4 gigabytes of RAM. So there is a little bit of a difference, but we are going to do a Geekbench test on both these devices just to see how much that matters inside this. Because as you guys know, both these devices do have the same chipset and they have the same GPU. So that's going to be really interesting to look at. Now, getting into the cameras on both of these devices, both these cameras are honestly pretty decent, and we're going to do some comparison photos in a second, and I'll show you that in a second. But getting into the specifications, the Moto G Stylus 5G has a 48 megapixel main camera, and that's going to be our wide camera, an 8 megapixel secondary camera, that's going to be our ultra wide camera. Our third camera is going to be a macro camera at 5 megapixels, and our fourth is going to be a depth camera at 2 megapixels. Now, comparing that to the N200 5G, we are going to have a triple camera setup instead of a quad camera setup. So our main camera is going to be 13 megapixels, and that's going to be our wide camera. Our secondary is going to be 2 megapixels, that's going to be our macro, and our third camera is going to be our depth camera. So, you know, kind of similar right there. It's just we don't get that ultra wide camera on the N200 5G. So that's the only thing that we're missing. Now, getting into the selfie cameras on these devices, as far as the Moto G Stylus 5G goes, we're going to have a 16 megapixel wide camera. So that's cool that we get a wide angle option on the G Stylus 5G. And on the N200 5G, we're going to have a 16 megapixel camera, so just regular camera. And as you guys can see, pretty similar placement as well. Very similar placement. That's one of the reasons why, you know, I was looking at the specifications, the camera placements and everything, and they were just so similar that I did have to compare them. So that's pretty cool. Both of these devices also have HDR in the selfie camera, and both these devices will be able to shoot up to 1080p at 30 frames per second for the selfie cameras as well. Both these devices have loudspeakers. Both these devices have 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks, so that's nice to see. Now, the only difference that I forgot to mention between these cameras is that the Moto G Stylus 5G is capable of recording 1080p at 60 FPS and 30 FPS, and the N200 5G is only capable of recording at 1080p at 30 frames per second. So that's the difference that we get right there. Honestly, I don't really record too much in 1080p at 60 FPS because it tends to have, you know, a few stabilization issues on these cheaper devices. But I'm definitely going to be giving you guys some samples later on. But here are the photos compared between the Moto G Stylus 5G and the N200 5G. Both these devices are also going to have USB Type-C, which is great to see. Got to leave that micro USB in the past. Hopefully, no other phones, even, you know, the cheaper phones don't have that, hopefully. But both these devices also have fingerprint sensors that are physical, so they're not going to be in-screen fingerprint sensors. And honestly, I kind of like that. But our fingerprint sensor on the N200 5G is going to be on the right side, and I absolutely love the placement of this fingerprint sensor. I just think it looks a lot better, to be quite honest. But let's go ahead and test that out right now. 3, 2, 1, go. Very quick fingerprint sensor right here, and our fingerprint sensor on the G Stylus 5G is actually going to be located at the back, so a little bit more retro as far as these smartphones go, but we're going to give this a fair shot as well. So 3, 2, 1, go. Very quick fingerprint sensor on this as well. Very quick, very accurate. Both these devices honestly have some really good and accurate fingerprint sensors, so there's really no issues there on that side of the spectrum. Now, getting into the battery, this is going to be a really big difference, honestly, as far as the charging. The batteries are the same, actually. Both these devices are 5,000 milliamp non-removable batteries, so you can't remove any of these batteries, but they're very, very hefty batteries. And honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how the N200 5G got so light with the 5,000 milliamp battery. It's probably because it's a little bit wider and the weight's a little bit more distributed. But the G Stylus 5G is definitely a little bit heavier than the N200 5G, and it's a little bit chunkier as well. So that's why I like the feel more of the N200 5G. It kind of reminds me of the Pixel 5, to be quite honest. It feels pretty much the same. So I think that's what OnePlus was going for this device. Hell of a device though so far. Now this is where the difference comes in. As far as the charging rate, we only get a 10-watt charging rate on the Moto G Stylus 5G. I don't know why they only give us 10. I was hoping to get at least 15, but getting into the N200 5G, we get an 18-watt fast charging charger inside of here. So amazing stuff from OnePlus. I'm so glad that they did this. I really don't even know what to say at this point because, you know, even the A52 5G only came with a 15-watt charger. And this one came with a huge 18-watt charger. Now the A52 5G, as I compared yesterday to the N200 5G, that actually is capable of charging at a 25-watt rate, but they did not put a 25-watt charger in there, and I'm still pretty confused on why they didn't do that. But hopefully they do that soon with their other devices. But amazing battery life in the N200 5G. Very solid device. Now, last but not least, before we get into the Geekbench score, as far as the colors on these devices, both these devices only have one color, and I think this color on the Moto G Stylus 5G is really cool, and this one is super cool as well. But the G Stylus 5G got Cosmic Emerald. Absolutely love this. It kind of looks like a old Jaguar car from the UK. Really like that. And the color that we get on the N200 5G is Blue Quantum, and that is the only color that we get on there as well. So both only have one color as of right now. Hopefully they add more colors later on. I'm really hoping for violet on both these devices. That would be really cool. So let's hope that ends up happening. So yes, this is very, very surprising. Both got the same single core scores. So that's actually really, really cool. So we got a score of 507 on both devices. And then as far as the multi-core score, it looks like we only got a difference of 80 points. So honestly, really, really close right here. Really close stuff right here. The N200 5G is just really surprising me, but going to the single core score, both these devices got a score of 507. So we're going to be in between the A71 and the Poco X3. So this ranks higher than the A71 as far as the single core score goes. Now, getting into the multi-core score for the G Stylus 5G, we got a score of 1659, and we're going to be placed in between the X3 and the A71 again. On the N200 5G, we got a score of 1582, so we're going to be placed in between the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the A71, and I think that's a really good placement, and that's why I'm so confident in this N200 5G. It just has a really good performance. So honestly, in my opinion, if we're going to go with a device as far as best value, I would go with the N200 5G. This device is a hell of a device. Really do like this device. Has a sexy color, has NFC in it, side mounted fingerprint sensor, 18-watt fast charging, a 90 hertz display. But if you guys want a device that has a little bit more storage, a little bit more RAM, I would go with the Moto G Stylus 5G, and obviously has a stylus. And this is definitely a really nice stylus, and you can turn this whatever way you would like to as well. So I definitely like the style of that new stylus. But if you guys want a phone with more storage and more RAM and a stylus, go with the Moto G Stylus 5G. If you want the best value, I would go with the N200 5G. But yeah, guys, that was my comparison with the Moto G Stylus 5G and the N200 5G. If I did give you some value in this video, definitely leave a like down below, as well as subscribing if you're not part of the Tech Gang already. Also, hit the notification bell if you guys want to be notified every time I do upload a new video. This has been Stefan from TechRight. Peace out, Tech Gang.